ahead and get started here in just a moment. So this is our third and final poll for the day. And this is the one that I was alluding to when I mentioned that you can do this very quietly and discreetly if you don't want everyone knowing exactly what your answers are. Most, if not all of you in this room are automation contacts. And I just wanted to get kind of a pulse check for everybody on how comfortable you are performing some of the tasks that we look to automation contacts for. So you can be honest. No one's going to know how you clicked. I'm really not interested in knowing who is comfortable with what task. I'm just interested in an aggregate look at how the group is feeling. So please feel free to be honest. How comfortable are you in keeping the staff at your library informed about SELCO technology? From 1, very comfortable, through 4, very uncomfortable, and 5, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing this. This is the scale we'll be using throughout the poll.
If you're not the automation contact, then you don't answer?
If you're not the automation contact, I would say you don't have to answer. If you want to anyway, feel free. Because certainly we look to directors for a lot of this kind of stuff too. Automation contact and director are certainly not synonymous, but at a lot of libraries it is the same person. So I guess don't get too hung up on an automation contact. If you want to answer to, we would love to have the information. Okay. We'll give it a few more seconds to wind up here. Okay. About 2/3 of you. That's a pretty decent number. How comfortable are you performing network troubleshooting? For example, the famous rebooting of the Sonic wall, which is the first thing we ask you to do whenever your network has any problems at all. If this does not apply to you because, for example, you're at a school, you can just skip the question. Give you a few more seconds. Almost out. How comfortable are you managing horizon settings? Now, I realize that's a really big question because that's everything from talking to us about your exceptions and your B types and your I types and the text on your notices. There's a lot in that category, so just answer as best you can. Give it a few more seconds. About half. Okay. How comfortable are you at pulling your pull list and just general managing requests? more seconds. Wow. All right. That's good news. How comfortable are you performing PC troubleshooting? And again, if this doesn't apply to you, then you don't necessarily feel like you need to answer. Give it a few more seconds. About half. So I'm seeing kind of a trend here. How comfortable are you helping patrons with ebook problems and questions? It's our favorite task, isn't it? Any consolation, we like it probably about as much as you do. We'll give that one a few more seconds to come in. I think this is our last one, if I remember right. Okay. Well, if you add the first two together, that's not too bad, folks. All right. We're going to be taking all the information from these polls, and we'll be taking a look at it. It will have some bearing on decisions we make with training, with SELCOtv, our website, how we use Service Desk. We'll probably be asking more of these kinds of polls in the future. So this is really helpful. Thank you all for doing it. Okay. And I am up next with automation forums. So before I get started, I'd like to see a show of hands. Yeah, I should have done the clickers. But I didn't really think about doing this until just now. How many of you used the enterprise feedback forums before we went live? Either read them or posted, any use at all? That's pretty good. Well, as Tyler mentioned, we were really happy with the level of use that got. Going into it, we weren't really sure how that was going to go, and we got a lot of good feedback. So we've decided to expand the program, and we're going to launch a set of automation forums, forums that will cover a lot more than just enterprise. This will be a place to talk about SELCO technology services. SELCO will engage. We will talk to you, but I'm also hoping that you can all talk amongst yourself. A place to share best practices, share opinions, help each other with questions. As I said, we'll be involved as well, but hopefully this will be a forum for everyone to use. Unlike the Enterprise Feedback Forum, we are going to use actual bulletin board software for this. We'll be using PHP BB, which if you've done any forums on the web, you've probably run across this already. What are the SELCO automation forums not going to be? It's not going to be the place for official information from us, with one exception that I'll talk about in just a moment. It's not going to be a substitute for the help desk. It's going to be a great place if you have a question about something or a problem that maybe you want to discuss with the greater group, but it's probably not the place to go if you need to set up a site visit to fix a PC. We'll still have the help desk for that. It's also not going to be the place to share anything that's confidential. So probably no patron names, no barcode numbers, no addresses, anything like that, because while the rest of the world will not be able to post, the rest of the world would be able to read this forum. We're not going to try and keep it a secret, so something to bear in mind. How do you get started? Because I know you're all just itching to start talking. The forums are going to go live on Tuesday, June 3rd. You'll simply go to the URL, forums.selco.info, and you'll be able to create an account. This is not going to be a centralized solution where we create accounts for you or you call us to get an account created. The software is pretty intuitive. As I said, it's very commonly used, so chances are you've run across it before. and it's very easy to set up an account. And we'll show you how that works in just a moment. In fact, we'll do that right now. So this is still a little bit in development. We'll eventually have a nice little SELCO logo there. I just don't have it set up yet. Incidentally, this is being hosted by the same company that is hosting all the WordPress websites that we are migrating right now. So this was a direct result of that project. We did not have to set up a server to run this software here. As you can see, we've set up some forums. I'm not going to promise that this list will never change. We are going to see how people use it, and we may make some modifications later, but this is what we're going to start with on launch day. Announcements is the exception that I mentioned a moment ago for official information. Anything that we are sending out in email, on the website, Facebook, all those announcement venues that we've talked about, we will also put here. Other than SELCO staff, though, no one else will be able to post here. It's just for announcements. But every place else, it's open season. So we have Horizon, we have reports, enterprise, cataloging, interlibrary loan, which is both out of region and Horizon requests, ebooks, because after all, we love to talk about ebooks, PCs and other user devices, websites in the internet. That would also include internet connectivity and internet bandwidth and things like that. And then finally, a catch-all for just any technology conversation. It does not have to be related to SELCO or even libraries. As I said, we'll see how this works. We'll make some changes based on the use. There is certainly going to be some overlap between, say, Horizon and interlibrary loan. We're not going to get real wrapped up in trying to police this. So if you put a poll list question or comment in the in the Horizon forum, we're not going to jump on that and move it or yell at you or get on your case or anything like that. I think the conversation will just kind of flow where it wants to flow, and we'll try to set things up accordingly. So having gone to the forum, to create your account, you simply go right here to the register link. And there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook. This is all boilerplate that comes with the bulletin board. We really have done nothing to modify this. If you do read this, I would say keep in mind that this was written for the outside world, where there's much more of a problem with trolls and people going on the forums specifically to create problems and juvenile behavior from people who may or may not actually be juveniles. So I'm not anticipating we're going to have any problems. We will have some moderators, simply because you need someone to watch what's going on. I don't think we're going to need to moderate this with a real heavy hand. I'm certainly not expecting to. So we'll agree to the terms because we're all professional adults and we're not going to do anything dumb. And the first thing we have to do is choose a username for ourselves. Now we had a little bit of a conversation internally about how we wanted to police this or whether we wanted to police it at all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that everybody use your SELCO username for this. So for me, D. Lambright. The software will not stop you if you choose not to do that. But I will tell you that you might get an email from us saying, hey, can we change this? Because everyone already knows the usernames and we know who each other are. So we're going to leave that kind of open and see how it goes. So I already have an account in here, so I'm not going to use my name.
You can set me up.
Oh, okay. So A. Hutton. We'll need your email address. That's Ann, right?
No, A. Hutton is.
Oh, it is. Okay. She's just on my contact list. I never actually type her name in.
It forwards from Ann itself. Unofficial.
Oh, there you go.
A. Hutton. Oh, a password.
Yeah, I'll just create one right now, and we'll create a different one later.
I'll make it too hard.
Oh, I won't.
Oh, forget it.
British English is the only choice. I might try to change that at some point, but our hosting company is in England, so there you go. And I've got it set up by default to go to Central Time. so you shouldn't have to mess with that. And then there's a little CAPTCHA, because we want to make sure you're not a spam bot. And you're done.
Thank you. It's so nice that you now take care of me.
But it really is quite simple. I don't think anyone's going to have a problem. We took a look at some schemes for synchronizing this with Active Directory, and it's complicated. It's going to take time to set up. Dave's getting ready to leave, as I'm sure you all know, so we're going to be shorthanded around here. We figured we don't need to make this overly complicated. Once you get your account created, there is a panel that you can go into. Where is that at? No, I'm not actually logged in, so I'm not seeing it. There are more options you can set up for your account where you can tell it to do things like email you whenever a comment is created or anything like that. And you can explore that. Has anyone seen this software before on the web? Yeah. Okay, so this is a very common piece of software, mostly because it's free and open source. So we're going to be launching this on June 3rd, and I hope to see lots of chatter. Okay, moving right along. Terry is going to talk to us about WordPress plugins. Yeah, we're right about on time. Yeah, we're doing good. There you go.
Oh, you went to my page.
Yeah, full service.
Okay, just want to do a little intro. Everybody's probably heard that I redid most of the plugins so that we could eventually move off of SELCO servers to SiteGround servers where the forum was hosted. That involved breaking a lot of the mechanics and leaving it behind, because in order to talk to Horizon, we had to be behind the firewall. So now what we have is a web service, and the plugins talk to the web service and parse a bunch of XML. Kind of very similar to the New York Times bestseller. We talk to them, they send us XML, and we parse it. So now, theoretically, if you have a coder, you would not need WordPress to talk to our web services. You could design your own. But you don't have to because, well, you have me. What I did do during this rewrite is I put a lot more mechanics in the back end. So the top title plugin was one that we had a lot of requests to make it do something other than just the number of checkouts from a book from November of 2011. So what I have done is now we can get a list of the top titles for the current month. So this is updated, I think, every night. So like I've got, I believe I'm using you, James. You're my favorite test library because you have lots of stuff. This is the number of checkouts of this material so far this month. So if you're looking for something that your patrons are looking for suggestions on what to read, you can send them to the New York Times bestseller, but then that's nationwide. National, this is your patron. This is the number of checkouts. So, and it's a simple short code. The thing to remember is, notice I put the title of 0. This is, there's a new parameter called period, and if you put 0, it gives you the current month. It's always, if I say 2, this gives me the current month and the previous 2 months. So you can see how things have changed in the top 5 books. The other part of the short code, which is the number of books, the number of top titles, is still the same. You can put in default 20. So we can do any number. So like this is like 3-month window. So every time they go to it, it goes out there, does the calculations. Here would be a 6-month window, and you can see how some books have dropped off as they become more current. And this one is kind of cool. You can put year in for the period, and what it does is it calculates the last fiscal year, or last calendar year. So we're in 2014. This is the top titles from Zumbrota for the calendar year of 2013. You never have to change it. It just automatically, like all the other plugins, automatically calculates it when the page is loaded. So you don't have to know the date. You need to know how long of a window you want and how many titles you want to show. So if you do not put anything in for the period, it does all, which means goes all the way back to 2011 and looks and counts them up. So hopefully now this plugin has just become a little more useful, because that was the first thing, when we first did it, it was closer to 2011, so it was okay, but now it's 2014, and who cares what happened back in even 2012. So, and also remember, send in suggestions. Just because I don't act on them right away, it doesn't mean I don't let them percolate. This was a suggestion that came up when somebody looked at St. Paul Library that had posted what titles were, they had broken it out to total titles and adult titles and children's titles last year for their board. So this was kind of like, oh, I think I can do that. So I did. And then when I created a whole new plugin. That was, the top title is the only one of the previously done plugins that got a major overhaul to make it useful. The rest pretty much function the same. Prior to Enterprise stealing all the thunder, heavy sigh, James had once had a, wow, why did those images? Oh, that is interesting. What browser are you using? Chrome. Chrome, that's cool. This was supposed to show you that if you picked too many titles, it would run right off the page, but apparently Chrome goes, no, and squished everything down. This is a book preview. It randomly chooses the number of images you say, 3, 5, 10, from your new book arrivals. So it goes out, finds all your new arrivals when the page is loaded, randomly picks however many you say. Typically it'll be 4 or 5. This one is, remember the talk about some new books not having cover art? And it will load them there. So if we were to refresh this page, we get different titles. Each book title is a link off to Opera Browser, or Enterprise. Sorry, I should just always substitute online catalog. There you go. So this one is kind of useful. What I did with mine is I actually put that on the top of my new arrival demo page. So you had the little 5 images and then my whole list. So that's the new plugin and that I wanted to talk about so that folks can use it. You can embed this in a post. So you just say, hey, we have new books. And then you can have the post maybe a link to your new arrivals page at the same time. That about covers it. I just wanted a quick butt in here and get some preview time for the new plugin. Any questions?
Is this only if your website is WordPress?
So far, yes. Yeah. All these plugins work on WordPress, so if you have a WordPress site, and I've talked most everybody into, except for the poor, there's a number of them that are tied to the city and can't get out of it. Though Linda figured out a way around that. Somehow they managed, the city decided to go to WordPress. So then for a while, we had a kind of a mirror site with the same theme. She would come over here. But now with the plugins talking to the web service, she can just load the plugins on their city server and they're good to go. But the service is available. The web service is available. If you have another platform, I know Austin has Drupal. If you can find a coder, they can code up, talk to the web service, and code it up and design your own. Any other questions? Then I'm going to pop in with the migration. Some of the migration, I fell behind. We ran into a few issues. This Wednesday, I put out a list of 12 websites that we're going to migrate to SiteGround. If you're not on that list, you're coming up later. I have done an initial migration, so everybody's site is over on SiteGround with full data, and I've kind of run through and made sure everything works. So now we're going in the deep end and for real, pushing 12 out this weekend. Then DNS propagation will happen over the weekend. Could be conceivably by Friday, but I'd wait till Monday. Okay? It's good? Wow, and I wanted that, yeah. See, I wanted a half an hour. Didn't even take me 10 minutes.
Any questions for Terry?
No, Terry, I even went off topic.
Thanks, Terry.
There it is. Okay, our final topic today is back to me, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about local content in the Overdrive collection. This is something that I've had several requests from over the last few years, and Overdrive came out with functionality about, probably 8 months ago now at this point, but it's kind of gotten swept under the rug while we were busy working on Enterprise. I was able to get it up and running, but no big announcements have really gone out about this, so I'm kind of saving it up for Users Group. But since we had to keep on delaying that, and then the last was all about Enterprise, that means I'm not talking about it until today. So, the thing is with Overdrive is they do have the capability nowadays for us to upload files into their collection and have our own local ebooks. So we can add our own titles into the collection for our patrons to check out in the Overdrive app. We can do this with both PDF and EPUBs of ebooks. As a reminder, PDF are just like static images. They're all right. You can read a book that way, but EPUBs are more like a document in that they are more easily to manipulate as an ebook. They're more versatile. This is the standard format for most ebooks aside from the Kindle formats. This is done when the file is given to us. We can either receive a PDF file or a Word document file. And the Word document files can be converted into EPUBs. And when they are EPUBs, they can be read as PDFs as well. When it comes to this, it's going to rely a lot on what the author submits or what your library chooses to do on behalf of your author. And they can choose the subject headings. We have a list of them. I will show you a little bit more about that later. And they can select up to 3 subject headings for their title, things like that. And most of the work for this is handled by SELCO staff. We have the authority on our end to go in and upload these files, input the cataloging information needed, and get it out there. Overdrive doesn't actually do anything when it comes to this unless we send them the Word document, in which case they convert to EPUB, but that's all that they do. Other than that, SELCO staff will be handling this. Eligibility, this is for our Overdrive, so public libraries, when it comes to this, because it does fit into the Overdrive collection. It is an additional value-added service. It doesn't have an annual fee or anything like that, but there is a contract that goes along with it. I've worked with Amy on this, and it's a one-time contract. We have written it so it is perpetual until notification of cancellation by either party, so you never have to renew it every year like we do for some of the other ones. And as I said, there is no fee that is attached to the contract itself. itself for this value-added service. You can sign up for it. If you never use it, you never have to pay anything. How it will work is it will work with depending on the titles you submit. Every title will require a $10 submission to cover the time that it takes us to get stuff in there. There is also a contract that goes along with this that we will ask to be sent along with the submissions for coverage, just to cover ourselves and to cover you as well when it comes to the stuff in here. For the most part, it's going to be asked. It'll probably be the author who fills this out for you. I would recommend having them do that because they need to sign it. But we need to know which library it is coming from for our files, who its submitter is, whether it's the author or an editor or whatever they want to call themselves. For purposes of clarity, I just referred to it as author. Title of the work, publisher, is different. And then there's our subject. They're listed in the appendix. I'll show you that later. And a short little description of the work. That would be the equivalent of the 520 field and horizon, a little summary note. And then when the author submits it, they can choose a little bit on the DRM on what they want to do. They can either have it as an open ebook, in which case you can download it and keep it in perpetuity on your device, or you can have the DRM enabled, like almost all of our books are in Overdrive. There are a few that are open, but most of them do have DRMs enabled. And then even in that, they can put in exceptions to allow copying of material, printing of material, whether it can be read aloud, things like that. That is completely up to the author, and as you see, if permitted, select this and this. Actually, a lot of our ebooks have various different things on this in the collection, but it's not really that noticeable, so who knows? Okay, and then the author agrees that they'll supply the library with the content, either as a word processor file or a PDF, and supply a cover image. There are a few books in Overdrive that have cover images, but not that many of them at this point, and I'd like to keep it that way because a book without a cover image isn't likely to be checked out, at least in my opinion and from several studies I've read. Okay, and then finally it comes down to the actual contract part of it. This is basically just covering all of our bases to make sure that that the author is granting us authority to do this. It is not an exclusive contract. If they choose to publish it, that is their situation, but we reserve the right to keep the agreement that we have now, even if they go to a publisher. And that if any part of this comes up in violation of copyright, that we, SELCO, you as the library, Overdrive as our vendor, we are exempt from any sort of legal disagreement, that it all comes down to the author in that situation for any lawsuit like that. And that finally, we have no obligations to accept, publish, or store the work should we choose not to publish it, although that will largely come down to your library's end. We're just saying that it's SELCO in this case. And let me just check. There are 4 points. I want to make sure that I covered everything. Yep, that pretty much covers the contract part of it. Finally, there is an appendix on here for the subject headings. These are just the ones that Overdrive supplies along with it, and it's weird. Some of them are available for adults, some of them for juvenile. There's a lot of overlap, but there isn't complete, so I had to break it out like this. There's some that make 0 sense, so I removed those. But these are the subject headings that are available for the adult works, for fiction works, sorry, and then there's a nonfiction one down here as well. As I said in the earlier part of the form, subject headings up to 3, at least 1. But if they only want, if only one works for it, then that is fine. Okay. And I already covered the copyright section of it, and of course, it seriously I pulled the control. And of course, it does come down to your library's decision whether you want to go ahead and go through this and pay the $10 to have this file uploaded into the collection. If you don't want to, you can always blame SELCO and say that we chose not to select it. I have no issues with that. So the process is that the author would fill out the contract, return it to you, and then they'll give you the submission with either in Word, preferably, or PDF with a cover image. At that point, you can send it into SELCO. The contract and the page on the SELCO website has details, and we have an email address set up that will send in to us. So just upload those files. If you can't scan the contract to get the signature, you can send it in via delivery. I'm fine with that. just make sure you put a note that it is for an ebook submission, and I'll be able to pair those two up. At that point, we will upload the file and get it out there. I'm not quite sure how long it takes to get it processed through, as we haven't actually done this for a title yet, particularly for the EPUB ones, but I'm guessing it'll take a few days, maybe a week. And then finally, the billing portion. I've talked to Amy about this, and the way that we're going to do this is we will simply add it into your automation fees, which are billed quarterly for any fees that come along with your local content. If you need it broken out, or she probably will do that, I don't know anything about billing. Amy handles all that stuff. Okay, and wow, questions?
Can you charge the patrons?
Absolutely. Although at that point, I'd recommend saying that, yeah, we are going to put it in there. So it would be kind of unfair to charge them and then not actually put it in. Okay, does anyone else have any questions on this at this point? As I mentioned, let me show you on the SELCO website. There is a page for this on the SELCO website, which has been hiding out in here forever. But no one ever really notices it because I don't highlight it. Under the Overdrive spot over here on the right, we have a few smaller pages, including the local content one, which has details on this on behalf of the library, and also has copies of the contract and forms, both contracts. Although if you wish to participate in this, let us know, and I will write out a detailed contract that specifies it is for your library, rather than filling out the one online, as well as the requirements, the procedure, things like that. Oh, it's local_content at SELCO.info email address hit set up. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Weird question, or weird thoughts coming. Local content. So it's let's say with our person, is that mean only Albert Lea people can check it out, or is it going to still be available to everybody on Overdrive, even though it's local? Okay.
The question is, if it is local content, will it be available just to a singular library in the Overdrive collection? And that would be available to everyone. We don't have anything that breaks it out based on library for our collections.
It makes sense, but when I see the word local, I just thought it's fair out.
Well, it refers to local as in SELCO local, not library local in this case. Any other questions? Okay, wow, I was fast too, so Terry isn't the only one who sped through his presentation. Do we have any general questions at all for anything that we covered today, or anything else the Technology Users Group should be aware of? I think it's all the damp weather that makes everyone a little bit reticent.
Yeah, James?
In that forum, the farms you're building, can you ask questions that aren't related to SELCO, like collection development between libraries? Could that be something that might consider after a while?
Absolutely, yes. The only hesitation I had was just trying to think where that would go. We made a definite decision to kind of focus on technology questions or technology topics first, and that's more of an internal thing. We're doing this within Information Services, my department, with SELCO. I certainly would like to see this expanded out to include non-technology library topics as well, but then that means getting other people involved who have their own plates full right now. So we thought we would just kind of start slow. So I am very interested in doing that. I'm kind of looking at Ann here. Let's get the technology part going soon, and then I think moving into non-tech library topics would be our next logical thing, and we could have some forums for that. So yes, eventually.
I'm standing up because I'm going to be the collector of the collector.
Yeah, but I was just
send 50 collectors back to myself.
Anything else before we go? Okay, as Ann said, please, if you want to give her your clickers before you go, that will help us with cleanup. And for those of you who are eating, we'll see you at Applebee's. Thanks for coming.